I read this piece from Jim Trotter, who's covered the league forever. He was NFL Network. Now he's ESPN. And he said this about Baker Mayfield's last season in Cleveland. Regarding the events that led to the release of Odell Beckham Jr., Jim Trotter reported that OBJ didn't call or text Mayfield after OBJ's father posted a video of instances where Mayfield missed or overthrew Beckham, even though the pair often played video games together and had vacation in Montana with other teammates over Labor Day weekend. An unnamed starter, when asked if he'd seen the video posted by Beckham's father, said, "Why would I watch? I see it every day in practice." So I think we know what's really behind Baker Mayfield, who's sitting out there, and some people think, why hasn't he been traded for? One of the teams that people think he could end up going to is the Seattle Seahawks. Here's Pete Carroll yesterday.
We're always competing. I'm not saying anything you didn't think I was going to say, but fortunately that's always been the way we've operated, and it fits again. So we're looking. I don't see us making a trade for anybody at all. I don't see that happening. But we're certainly going to continue to be open to the chances to help our club, and meanwhile we're just going to be battling and competing our tails off. But that there's always possibilities, so we keep open to that.
Okay, so let me give you my read on this, which is whether it's Carolina or Seattle or whomever, or whomever. I mean, it's a pretty simple read. Is Cleveland stuck with this gargantuan contract, and why would we take on that deal, kill our cap for a guy we don't know how good he is anyway, or when he's going to be healthy enough anyway, when we can just wait and ultimately Cleveland will likely have to release him. Right? That's the part. Cleveland's going to have to release him, and so all these teams are like, look, if you release him, anybody can get him, but I also don't have to pay nearly as much, not just for a trade, but also for that contract. But what you hear, not just with Odell Beckham Jr., but with an unnamed starter saying he sees it every day in practice, the argument I always had for Baker Mayfield, you can go back and listen to when I first started working at Fox Sports Radio. This is 5 years ago, and I would appear on Cowherd's show, and I'd sit next to Cowherd, and I'd say, listen, I understand. Okay? I understand what you think of him or what a fan thinks of him. But guys in that locker room love him. They would lay down on train tracks for him. That was his base, right? That was his base. This is no different than politics. If you lose your base, you lose the race, right? Baker Mayfield's base wasn't the fans, wasn't the coaches. It was the players. Guys always just liked playing with him, kind of dug him. He was just cool enough to fit in with the wide receivers are always like the coolest dudes in the room, right? They always got swag. They just look cooler, feel cooler, dress cooler. They probably smell cooler. He just good enough, but just down home enough to get down with some of the linemen. Okay, some of those big old boys, they just like to sit around and eat and talk shop. He worked well with the running backs. Like, he ran and owned the locker room. He believed in them, he fought for them, and they in turn believed in him. Once he lost the locker room, it was over. It was over. He lost his base. And if you lose your base, you lose the race. That's not just politics, that's at work as well. When the people who believe in you, swear by you the most, are the ones that are chirping behind your back, yikes. Tells you all you need to know. ESPN also reported that Mayfield questioned the Browns' play calling at the end of the season and wondered at the time if the organization set the quarterback up to look as hapless as possible in prime time. The game in question was Week 17, Monday Night Football between the Browns and the Steelers. Cleveland was already eliminated from playoff contention, meaning this game would most likely be Mayfield's last start of the season for the Browns. During the game, he was sacked 9 times, and his last play resulted in an interception. He threw 10 incompletions in a row at one point during the 26-14 loss to the Steelers. I just hear a lack of accountability. Nobody had gun to their head telling them to throw the throw the football to the other team, to throw the football away. There's no question that he wasn't healthy, he wasn't right, but there's also no question he didn't play well, and he didn't have buy-in from his most talented players. Didn't have it. You lose your base, you lose the race. Do I think Baker Mayfield's in the league this year? I think so. But I think it's only after he's released by the Browns, because you heard Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll didn't say we're not gonna look at him. He just said we're not going to trade for him. Well, why would I trade for a $19 million quarterback when I can get him for a couple $1 million when he's out in the street?